Your vote is your own. You need to make that decision yourself. But personally, I don't think that we should reward the two major parties that have been responsible for leading our nation into the position that it is at the moment. But that choice is up to you. You do it however you want. Personally, I will put Trumpeter Patriots first, myself. Look, honestly, I believe that the average person has to get more involved in the political process. They have to care about who goes to Canberra and have to care about the decisions that those people make when they're in Canberra and hold them to account. Don't keep voting people back in over and over again that keep letting you down. But I also think that potentially things won't get better until they get a little bit worse, because the average person has to, unfortunately, feel a little bit of pain, a bit of discomfort before they actually pay more of an interest to what your political elites are up to in Canberra. As we all know, it is an agenda of the United Nations to push everyone into more compact cities. They're doing this, or compact cities and compact areas. They're doing this under the guise of making your life easier. But in my opinion, what it's about, it's having more control over the individual populations of different cities and countries. Because when you're all stuck in a city, you're all stuck in an urban high density area, you're obviously easier to control and you're not as spread out. That's what I think that's about. Yes, we have. So as you know, the United Australia Party is now working very, very closely hand in glove with the Trumpet of Patriots Party. And we're hoping to challenge the duopoly that is Labor and Liberal. The United Australia Party has a policy position whereby we would like to promote something called income splitting. As an example, let's say you've got a married couple, mum and dad. Dad goes to work, let's say he earns $120,000 a year. We would split the income between himself and his wife, who has decided to stay home and raise the kids. That way, they would be on $60,000 each, on paper at least, and they would pay less tax. I think that's a very simple, very straightforward solution to help mothers stay home and, of course, pay less tax, which is what we all want to do. Yes, I believe that Labor is in a very strong position to win this next election, purely because the Liberal Party has not provided a clear alternative. They haven't provided us with better solutions than what Labor is currently providing us with. All the Liberal Party seem to do is just to copy whatever Labor's doing and just water it down slightly. It is not the way to be in opposition. And opposition must provide radically new and better ideas to what the current government is presenting. If they cannot do that, then what's the point of being in opposition? Because an opposition must oppose. So I think that, unfortunately, the Labor Party is in a very strong position this election, not because they've done a good job, but because the Liberal Party has done such a very, very bad job. Yes, the government is beholden to all sorts of international organizations. The biggest ones that you would know of are the UN, the WHO, and even the WEF. The decisions that these organizations make permeate through individual nation states. I do not agree with this. I, in fact, would like to see us exit the UN and all their sister organizations, because I believe that Australia must make decisions that always put Australia and only Australia first. That is the job of our Senate, that is the job of our House of Reps, that is the job of our Prime Minister, to put us first, not to make us beholden to anyone at all outside of our borders. Do I believe that we need to cooperate with other nations? Of course we do, but not at the expense of our own country. For example, if I were Prime Minister, tomorrow morning, I would drop the whole net zero fiasco and pull us out of it straight away, because it has to be Australia first. And of course, as you know, Australia's only response, if you believe in the so-called junk science of global warming anyway, Australia is only responsible for around 1% of global emissions. Absolutely, it's worth voting. Is it rigged? Potentially it is, but not in the way that you might think. I don't think that people are going around erasing ballots or anything like that, but I do think that the mainstream media push the narrative that there are only two parties at every election. All they do is talk about Labor and the Greens and the Liberals and the Nationals. That's all they talk about. They never give other parties or other ideas any time in the sun at all. So in that sense, yes, it's stacked against parties like mine. It's stacked against all of us, really, that value different ideas and want to see Australia go in a different direction. So the establishment controls the narrative. So in that sense, yes, the game is rigged against us. I have no intention at this point in time to recontest the next election. I've always said since day one, my very first interview was with Rukshan Fernando and Avi Yemeni. And I said in that very first interview back in 2022 that I would only serve one term. At this stage, I am sticking to that. I don't want to serve another term. Why? Because I don't believe in career politics. I believe that a politician should be somebody from your community that has experience paying a bill, paying off their mortgage, driving to work, and is connected to that community. I don't believe that politicians should sit in their lofty towers in Canberra for 6 years, 12 years, 18 years, whatever it is, and then progressively become more and more disconnected with the community. I actually am a strong proponent of term limits. How many terms? We can have that debate anytime, but I don't think that politicians should sit in Canberra for a lifetime. Great example is old mate Dan Andrews. Old mate Dan Andrews has been a Labor stooge since he first came out of university, went to work in a Labor Party office as a young guy, paid his dues to the party, waited for a safe Labor seat to pop up, went into that safe Labor seat, paid his dues some more to the organisation, eventually worked his way up to become Premier. Daniel Andrews had no real world experience prior to that. He was just groomed for that position from a very young age. I don't like that. I don't think that should happen. Term limits are a good thing and I support those. Thank you very much for that. No, I'm not afraid to say exactly what's on my mind, and I think that more politicians should actually do that and be like that. But the problem is that a lot of these people are just trying to protect their jobs. They want to be career politicians. They want to work their way up the chain. They like it a little bit too much. In my opinion, once again, those are exactly the types of people that shouldn't be in politics, the people that actually enjoy it. Politics, and in my opinion, is a public service. It's a heavy weight to carry. You should get in, do your term, represent your community, and then you should leave. You should not be a careerist only focused on saying what you need to say to be re-elected next time. That's wrong. You should just do what needs to be done for the benefit of your country, your people, your community. I'm with the United Australia Party, and for this election, the United Australia Party is working very closely in an alliance with the Trumpeter Patriots. So if you support either of those parties, that's got my tick of approval. Personally, I would like to see the WEF take a hike. They are obviously a globalist organisation. Globalists by their very nature do not care for the nation state, and they would like to see the nation state disbanded. So I'm not a fan of the World Economic Forum at all. I am open to a First and Second Amendment type system for Australia because I believe the best way to keep tyranny at bay is obviously freedom of speech and also the right to bear arms to keep government at bay. Because if you look back throughout history, government is the biggest killer of its own population. It's called democide. Look it up. Well, the easiest thing that we can do to bring down the cost of living in our country is to exit all net zero agreements and unleash cheap energy. And the other thing is, of course, reducing immigration. Now, I am not against immigration. I myself am an immigrant. But I think that immigration needs to be balanced and well thought out, and we can't just throw open our borders to every Tom, Dick and Harry who wants to come to Australia, because it's not sustainable and the people who live here now are suffering under the weight of that mass immigration. Now, the reason why they have mass immigration is they are trying to prop up the balance sheets of the country, prop up our GDP with more people. Now, I understand why they're doing it. But a nation is more than a balance sheet. A nation is its people and the quality of life of its people, of its citizens. So the easiest way to bring that cost of living, once again, is unleash cheap energy and reduce immigration. No, I don't think the cost of housing will go down in the next few years, purely because of the amount of people that we have here at the moment. There are more people than what we have the infrastructure to deal with. Now, the answer to that issue is removing unnecessary legislative burdens to the private sector building more homes. That is always the answer. So less government is the answer. Well, electric vehicles are anything but sustainable. They're anything but good for the environment. I'll tell you why. You mine the minerals for these products, let's say from Africa. You put those minerals on a ship. They end up in Europe. That gets processed. You put it on another ship. It ends up in China to be made into batteries. Then you put it on another ship. It ends up in the United States or somewhere else to actually make the cars. Then at the end of their useful life, you can't recycle those things and it goes into landfill. What is renewable about renewable energy? Nothing at all. Just the cost is renewable, that's it. Is there a place for electric vehicles? Of course, but that should be up to the individual person if they decide to purchase that product. It shouldn't be up to the government to force that product onto every man, woman and child in the country. Renewable energy overall, I think it's a misnomer, it's a falsehood. Nothing renewable about renewable energy. Nothing renewable about Chinese-made solar panels that get put up on your house or Chinese-made wind turbines that get installed that have a very short shelf life that must be replaced, let's say in 15, 20, 25 years, whatever it is. They're not recyclable, they end up in landfill. What's renewable about that? The best way is to educate your fellow citizen as to where our country is headed with these people in power. And you know, if you look at it for more than 2 seconds and you turn off your TV, you'll see that our country is just getting worse and worse. I mean, you can see it with the cost of living right now. We need people to pay attention. You just have to be in their ear and get them to pay attention to what these two major parties are doing to our country. Then once they've done that, they just need to make different choices, better choices, and vote for different people. I think what needs to happen is we need to hold politicians to account, and the best way to do that is at the ballot box. Let's take Labor and Prime Minister Albanese, for example. He promised us a saving of $275 on our power bills once he got elected. What happened after he was elected? Power bills went up by well over $1,000 for most people. So the best way, hold him to account at the ballot box. Don't buy the spin, don't buy the mistruths, and just judge them by what promises they made and don't reward them when the next election comes around. So as an example, this time we all know that Labor wasn't truthful about making our lives easier. They lied. So at the ballot box, you know, in the next few weeks, don't reward them. Just say, no, I'm not going to vote for you because you made a promise which you didn't keep. Simple as that. I can tell you this, we do have a deep state. Now, what is the deep state? People will sometimes ask me. Now, the deep state is the bureaucrats. It's a bureaucracy in Canberra. I'll give you an example. It doesn't matter who sits in the Prime Minister's office. It could be Mr. Albanese or it could be Mr. Peter Dutton. The bureaucrats advising these two men are the same. The heads of departments, the people around them, they're exactly the same. They don't go anywhere. That is the deep state. And they will push whatever agenda they want pushed, and it doesn't matter whose name is on the door. So yes, we do have a deep state. Yes, we need to get rid of them, but we need a leader with the kahunas, with the testicular fortitude to take office and to get rid of everyone that was involved in the previous administration and forge a better path forward. Unfortunately, I don't think our leaders have the kahunas to do something like that, but absolutely there's a deep state, there's a bureaucracy, a permanent bureaucracy in Canberra, and these people, in my opinion, are the true wielders of power in our nation. Absolutely not. I will not support a digital ID social credit type system for Australia. It's obvious why. We don't want to give government ever increasing controls over our lives. We don't want to live in a surveillance state. We already kind of live in one now, but it could get a lot worse in the next few years. So I will push back against increased digital surveillance in all our lives. Well, I'm not up for election this time around. I'm a senator, and as a senator, I have a 6-year term. So I've done about 3 years now, but if you want to support a party like mine, I will be personally voting for Trumpeter Patriots. If you're unsure how to fill out your ballot papers, there will be a Trumpeter Patriots volunteer at the polling booth handing out how to vote cards. So just follow the how to vote card. Well, personally, I would like to see the luxury car tax gone. I mean, we don't even have a car industry in this country to protect, so we should drop all taxes, in my opinion, that were put in place in order to protect the local car industry. Having said that, I just don't believe that we should only reduce the luxury car tax. We should be looking at ways to reduce all taxes. I think we as Australians are overtaxed and we are also overgoverned. But the only way that you can cut taxes is if you really reduce the size of government and start to, dismantle this welfare state that we've created where everyone seems to expect everything for free. There's nothing free, nothing at all. And I personally am really sick of government when they say this is free, that is free, free this, free that. That's wrong. It's not free. Someone's paying. You're paying through your taxes. So cut taxes across the board and begin to dismantle the welfare state. Tariffs is an interesting one. So as you may know, he's put a pause on the tariffs lately, except for, of course, on China. Now, I think that tariffs on China are not necessarily a bad thing. We should be looking for ways to increase manufacturing at home. We need to be looking for solutions that encourage companies and businesses to bring their manufacturing, bring their businesses back to our home countries. Tariffs are just a means to an end to try and get to that point. But you can't do that, of course, unless you cut regulations and make it more appealing for these companies to come back to our home countries in the first place. So yeah, tariffs aren't necessarily a bad thing in that sense if they encourage these companies to come back. I think it's very important that we do everything we can to rebuild our military. We live in a very uncertain world, and we've got nations to our north that are very authoritarian and very aggressive, and potentially, in fact, I'm fairly sure that they view Australia as a prize that they'd like to have on their belt. I would be a huge advocate for doing all we can to increase the size of our military. However, it's difficult to get people to serve in our military when you continually tell them that Australia is built on stolen land, or Australia is racist, or Australia is a bad country. So I think as far as rebuilding our military goes, that's great, that's one part of it, but we also need to change our education system as well so that we have teachers and people in place that are telling young kids coming up and growing up today that Australia is a great country and it's a country worth defending. And we need to rip the radical Marxism out of all of our educational institutions. My political goal is to encourage other people to be involved in the political process, encourage other people to join a party, encourage other people to put their name on the ballot, and encourage other people to take an interest in the direction of this country. Nothing will change until the average person out there really understands that they can't just sit back on the internet commenting on social media or talking just to their friends and family. They have to be actively involved in the political process and put their shoes to the pavement. As an example, have you volunteered for your favorite party of choice to hand out how to vote cards at the next election? If you haven't, you need to do that. Then once you've done that, join a party of your choice that aligns with your values. Hold the major parties, Labor and Liberal, Greens and Nationals, to account. You've got to do something. Complaining on the internet is not enough. Well, the money is coming from you through taxation, obviously, but it's also coming from generations that haven't even been born yet. So as you know, Australia is currently saddled with about $1 trillion of debt. That debt will not be able to be paid off by you in your lifetime. So you know who's going to pay that off? Your kids are going to pay that off. So all these major parties are doing, both Labor and Liberal, these big spending parties, they are setting up your children for debt slavery in the future. And they haven't even been born yet. No, I do not enjoy my work in the Senate. I view it like a public service. I view it like Australia is 2 minutes to midnight. And I view it as a duty that I have decided to take on. I don't view it as something to enjoy. And I think any person, any politician that truly enjoys what they do is not the right person for the role. Well, I'm not a career politician. I did this because I felt like I had no choice. I felt like the country that I love so much was being taken from me, was being destroyed, was being stolen. So I decided to put my hand up and run for office. I talk the way I do and I say the things I say because I'm not worried about a re-election. And in fact, like I said before, I'm actually planning to step away at the end of my term. And I think more politicians need to act like that and just do the right thing for the country rather than being focused on what do I need to say and what do I need to do in order to be re-elected over and over again. That's not the right thing. The letter from Trump was a private letter. It was just a nice letter from the president saying that I was doing a good job and a few bits and pieces, but it's not something that I am going to share publicly just because it's private. But there was no national security stuff in there or anything like that. I've never said that Australia is just for Christians, but what I have said is that Australia is fundamentally a Christian nation. It was founded on Christian ideals and Christian principles, and Australia must stay a Christian nation. It must not be a nation that is anything other than a Christian nation, because Christianity, whether you believe it is true or not, has given us a very strong foundation to build a very prosperous country that everybody wants to migrate to. I've made a very long video on this and you can find it on my YouTube channel, which I'll put the link down below in the description or in the comments. The only way to elect the Prime Minister outside of the two parties is if a third party, such as Trumpeter Patriots, won enough seats in the lower house. So there are 151 seats in total in the lower house. So a competing party, apart from the Labor and Liberal of course, would have to get enough seats to get at least half, and then the party would choose its Prime Minister from the elected members of the lower house. So yes, it is possible for us to elect a Prime Minister from outside of the two major parties. It will be a difficult job, but it's not impossible. Trumpeter Patriots has promoted a policy whereby they are suggesting that iron ore exporters should be subject to a 10% export license. That 10% would be isolated to pay off our $1 trillion of debt. So yeah, vote for Trumpeter Patriots and we'll get a 10% export license. I agree, Australia should be more self-sufficient. We have a massive country with so many different resources, from your minerals to gas, coal, etc. We absolutely do need to be more self-sufficient. 100% I agree with you. But the only way that happens is if we get government out of the way and we remove burdensome legislation on these companies to be able to do business here. I'll give you an example. We mine iron ore right here in Australia and we sell it to China for several $100s a ton. And it comes back to us for much, much, much more money in the form of steel. Or it comes back to us in the form of an iPhone or a computer or something else. So we should encourage more Australian manufacturing. We should process our own minerals at home. Now the problem is the government. There are too many rules, there are too many regulations, there are too many taxes, which is why so many companies, corporations have decided to go offshore. It's just impossible for them to do business here. The solution, less government. The Trumpeter Patriots has proposed an Australian Doge, but then again, so has the Liberal Party coalition. The problem with the Liberal Party is they are not going to properly run and enforce a Doge type system. Why? Because they were in power for 3 election cycles themselves, previously to Labor taking power just recently. So what we're really asking the Liberal Party to do is to investigate their own failures, investigate their own inefficiencies, and they're not going to do that. Any Doge we get with the Liberal Party is going to be a complete whitewash and a waste of time. If we want a true and proper Doge that's really going to hold government to account, we need a third option, Trumpeter Patriots, to come in with fresh eyes to get it done. Liberal Party will not do it. I think the biggest danger to Australia is actually the career bureaucrats, the deep state. These people are in power, and it doesn't matter if Labor is in power or if Liberals in power, they still hold their positions and they dictate the direction of the nation. The next biggest danger is probably apathy. So the average person not taking a genuine interest in the political process and refusing to be involved on a practical level. I mean, you can't just keep voting Labor and Liberal every time and expecting different results. That's not going to get it done. You have to really pay attention to what these people are doing, and you've got to be involved. You've got to join a party. So apathy is a big one. Well, I have an Australia First attitude. I believe that all the decisions that are made in Canberra should be about helping our own people here in Australia predominantly. I mean, if that's offensive to some people, then I'm sorry, it is what it is, but it's Australia First all the way. No, I am not a Freemason. Topher Field has made an excellent video on how to vote and how the preferential system works. I'll link that down below in the comments. I didn't join the Liberal Party because the Liberal Party are not a conservative party. They don't stick to their own values. If you go on their website and you read what's called their We Believe statement, it sounds all great and fantastic. But in practice, in reality, they don't do any of those things. So the Liberal Party, unfortunately, is basically not very different to Labor at all. They basically do the same thing. So on issues of significance, real key important things, I can't tell them apart at all. So that's when I decided in 2022 to join the United Australia Party, because the United Australia Party actually wants to put Australia first and actually has genuine right-leaning conservative values. Well, I'm not in government. I'm a senator on the crossbench. There's only one of me. So how it works is we've got 151 members in the lower house and we've got 76 senators in total. I'm one of 76. So obviously it's very hard for me to advocate for things that I believe in when I'm surrounded by up to 75 other people that don't believe in the same things. So the solution to that is getting more people like me elected. It is a numbers game. We need more people in the House of Reps and we need more senators. Then we can make difference and we can actually implement all of the things that we believe in. So at the moment, my job is to raise awareness about the issues that are happening in Australia and motivate you to do something about it. It's not up to me really, it's up to you. You've got to be involved, like I keep saying, in the political process. Very simply, stop spending money. Stop spending money that we don't have. Remove unneeded legislation, so barriers for companies to do business. Encourage corporations to move to Australia. Encourage manufacturing. Get rid of net zero. And we can grow our economy that way and start to pay off debt. I mean, it's really that simple. There's not much more to it than that. You can just view the nation's finances like a household's finances. If you keep tapping the credit card, if you keep swiping your Visa or your MasterCard, of course it's not going to end well. We need to earn more money, simple as that, and we need to stop spending. It's that simple. I'm not opposed to medical cannabis with a prescription from a doctor. A woman is an adult human female with XX chromosomes. That is a woman. The only way to leave that is to support parties like Trumpeter Patriots and a few of the others, because both Labor and Liberal have committed to net zero, and both of those leaders of those parties have said that they have no intention of leaving that agreement. I think President Trump is doing an absolutely fantastic job. A president's job is to look after his country first, and that is exactly what he's doing. I wish we had that here, where our leaders would put us first as well. In my opinion, we do not have that. So I think President Trump's doing a fantastic job. I support him completely in what he's done so far. I personally do not support radical late-term abortion. I think what we need to do is give women options, love and care, so that they don't have to make the choice to kill their own child. I think it's wrong. In a perfect world, it's something that women wouldn't consider at all because they would have love and support that they needed to keep their child. But that's a very wide-ranging issue. But at a higher level, I do not support radical late-term abortion at all. All right, guys, that's all I've got time for. I hope you got a little bit of value out of that. It was just a really quick, Q&A, just really high-level answers. Hopefully, I see you around the traps at Trumpeter Patriots or United Australia Party events, and we can have a more in-depth conversation about all of my views. But have a good one, have a blessed one. Love you all. God bless you, and God bless our nation.